Welcome to today's edition of the Rush 24/7 podcast.
And we are here, my friends, raring and ready to go. It's Friday on the EIB network.
Live from the Southern Command in sunny South Florida, it's Open Line Friday.
And here is the telephone number if you want to be on the program, 800-282-2882. The email address, elrushbo@eibnet.us. Open Line Friday is where I graciously remove myself. Well, that's really not possible to do, given my presence. But what I mean is, we open the door to all kinds of comments. Whatever people want to call about is fine. We don't restrict it to things that I care about, which we do Monday through Thursday. And we always try to take a few more calls on Friday. In fact, President Trump told a funny story not long ago. A bunch of people seated around a dinner table, and President Trump was talking about not long after I'd arrived in New York. He said, yeah, I'm asking everybody, who's this Limbaugh guy? Nobody knows who this Limbaugh guy is. And they started telling me who this Limbaugh guy is, and I said, well, I got to get on that show. I got to get, and my friends told me, you can't get on that show. He doesn't take guests. He does 3 straight hours with no guests and hardly any phone calls. You can't get on that show. I said, it's the first show I've ever been told I can't get on. So on Friday, what we do is move myself out of the way a little bit in terms of areas of discussion. Now, what happens is that since my interests are so broad and so varied, so omnivorous, that it's really tough for people to call and talk about something I don't care about. But the opportunity is there. President Trump is on the way to Atlanta. He is the first president since, I just saw this. It doesn't mean anything. Snerdley is sending me a news alert. The news alert is that they've reached a stopgap funding measure for 1 week. In other words, a government shutdown has been averted for 1 week. So we have another week, just like this week, coming up. Will there be a government shutdown? Will the Republicans dare shut down the government? Will Donald Trump shut down the government? Will people starve? Will the sleigh rides at Jellystone Park terminate? All of that, we get it for another week. Just shut it down. Just shut it down and get what you want. I'm so worn out. This government shutdown as a political tactic that the people who lose the elections continue to succeed with? What is wrong here? The people that lose elections ought to be hammered every day. And they're not. There's a story, by the way, you won't believe this. I wasn't going to get to this, the top of the list, but now I'm going to go there. There's a story in Politico. This is just... Let me give you the Cliff Notes version of the story. It's in Politico, and they're very upset that Trump watches Fox and Friends first thing every morning. But do you know why? Fox and Friends are too positive. And so Trump is getting a distorted picture of what the country actually thinks of him. He starts the day thinking that he's loved, thinking that he's adored, because that's where he's loved and adored, is on Fox and Friends. And he sees all the cute little animal segments that they have and all of the upbeat America's Great segments that they do. And the people there tend to like each other and get along, and there isn't any put-down stuff going on. There's no mean-spirited extremism. And so Trump's not getting an accurate picture of America because he's watching a phony show where there's too much optimism and there's too much positive reinforcement. And he'd better stop it. He had better stop it. He'd better start watching stuff that is ripping him to shreds every day so he knows how much he's hated. As though Fox and Friends is the only morning show that tries that. Now, they may be the only one that pulls it off because most of the other morning shows are devoted to destroying Trump or being negative. I mean, the drive-by media is miserable and unhappy every day because Trump won. Oh, get this. Story out of Minneapolis. The worst jobs list and the best jobs list. This is unbelievable, too. From a website called CareerCast. Let's start with the best jobs of the year. Number 10, this is from worst to best, but it's still the top 10 best jobs out there. And I don't know what the criteria. I don't know if this is the jobs that pay the most. I don't know if these jobs are you're the happiest. I don't know if these are the jobs where you accomplish the most. Oh, have you heard about what's going on at Yale? Folks, Yale students have unionized and are conducting a hunger strike where they can eat. And they're being applauded as courageous and valorous. Tweets galore saying, even though they can eat, this is commitment. This is serious. These are doctoral students. You know a doctoral student is paid $30,000 a year, gets free health care and room and board, and they're on strike at Yale, doctoral students. They're on strike at Yale because they're undercompensated. So they've gone on a hunger strike where they can eat when they're barely able to walk. You know, when they've been on the hunger strike like 7 or 8 hours and they can't go any further, they can't take another step, they can eat. They're still calling it a hunger strike, and they wonder why we think something's wrong in higher education. A hunger strike where you can eat. This isn't even a symbolic hunger strike. And these people think that people in Mississippi are stupid. These people think people in Kansas are stupid. Anyway, back to the best jobs and the worst jobs. Number 10, best job list, speech pathologist. How many of you out there planning your futures right now? How many of you parents, little Johnny, little Susie running around the house, 8, 9 years old? Little Johnny, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Mommy, I want to be a speech pathologist. I saw that on TV. I really can't wait to be.
Really? Speech? Good choice. That's a great job, little John. How many people are aiming at that? Here's number 9, occupational therapist. What is that? I mean, I think I know, but what is an occupational therapist? Is this somebody that does therapy while somebody is in occupation? Like when ISIS is occupying Iraq, do they need therapy? You're an occupational therapist, so you provide therapy to occupying military. That's not what it is. Okay, so occupational therapist. So you're a therapist to somebody who's in an occupation, which is a job. You're a therapist to somebody on the job maybe not getting along with the boss. That's not what is an occupational therapist then? Somebody tell me. Oh, they help you find a job after 99 weeks of unemployment. Or you might have been disabled in a car crash or whatever, been a victim of Trump's election, whatever it is. Oh, I see. Silly me. But therapist, see, this is where you go in and you tell them your problems and they tell you, yes, you're crazy, or no, you're not crazy, but you can get better. That's what was confused. Therapist is the wrong word. Consultant. Occupational consultant. But therapist? Okay, well, moving on. Software engineer. That's number 8. Mathematician. Number 7. And tenured university professors. Number 6. Data scientist came in at number 5. These are top jobs in America. Data scientist, number 5. Information security analyst. Anybody want to take a stab at what that is? Like if I were to say one of the jobs on this list, vision control coordinator, what do you think the job is? Vision control coordinator. It's a window washer. Combustible fluids transportation engineer. What's that? Combustible fluids transportation engineer. Nope, it's a guy working the gas pumps at your gas station. So what is, where did I leave off here? Information security analyst. Somebody that prevents your computer network from being hacked. Information security analyst. Yeah, but what's the difference? Data security analyst. Moving on, operations research analyst. Operations research. These are the top jobs, according to some outfit, some website, CareerCast. Medical services manager, number 2. That's the nurse, right? Medical services manager. You don't think that describes nurse? Whoa, what is medical services? It's not a doctor. What's medical services manager? Are we talking IT here? We talking computer programs when people run the hospital IT? What are we talking? Medical services receptionist? Medical services manager. And the top job in America, according to this list, statistician. Now you want to hear the bottom? The worst jobs. Taxi driver ranks number 10. Retail salesperson at number 9. Firefighter is number 8. Ad salesperson number 7. Disc jockey number 6. Keep going here. Disc jockey number 6. Worst jobs. Number 5. Pest control coordinator. Number 4. Enlisted military personnel. Worst job some outfit called CareerCast. Enlisted military person. Number 4, logger is number 3. Broadcaster is the second worst job of the year. Newspaper reporter takes the top spot. Newspaper reporter, the worst job you can get. Broadcaster, the second worst job, according to CareerCast. And the best job that you can get out there is a statistician. Does this, people are going to read this, they're going to believe it. Does this not present a very jaundiced view of jobs in America and their quality? Anyway, back to Fox and Friends. Here's Trump getting up and watching Fox and Friends. They're very worried at Politico, but he's getting a distorted picture of America and his presidency because they're optimistic. They're happy. They see the positive things during the day, these people at Fox and Friends. Steve Doocy, Kilmeade, Ainsley Earhart. But the worst aspect of it is that Trump is not seeing an accurate representation of the America he leads. And he's not seeing an accurate presentation of how he is thought of. And until Trump changes, until Trump ditches this show and starts watching some other morning show, which is much more immersed in reality, then Trump is going to continue to be ignorant and separated from the America that he is leading. Every day, folks, I get up and I read the news, I look at the news, and every day I think that a limit has been reached where I can't expect to find any more ludicrousness, idiocy, and every day I surprise myself. It's a typical Tuesday in March. President Trump's getting hammered by the press. One of his signature campaign promises, repealing Obamacare, has just collapsed. The Republican co-chairman of the House Intel Committee investigating ties between Trump associates and Russia was under fire for a secret meeting in the White House grounds, and Gallup's recent poll numbers showed Trump at 36% approval. But Trump was starting his day with Fox and Friends, where the world looked decidedly sunnier. Here was an ultrasound image of his 9th grandchild in utero, his meeting with women business owners described in glowing terms, and his enemies defanged. According to the hosts at Fox and Friends, it was Hillary Clinton's cronies, not Trump's, who had the problematic Russia contacts, prompting Trump to tweet, "Watch Fox and Friends now on Podesta and Russia." Trump's cozy relationship with Fox and Friends had become one of the greatest curiosities of his unusual presidency. A well-known cable TV devotee, Trump has found inspiration for his Twitter timeline in various programs, but none as much as Fox News Channel 6 to 9 a.m. show Fox and Friends. a man with access to the highest levels of the national security apparatus, regularly uses Fox and Friends as an unimpeachable source of information. It's not hard to understand the show's appeal. While the rest of the media frets and wails over Trump policies and sounds the alarm over his tweets, Fox and Friends seems unrelentingly positive. It's pitched to the frequency of the Trump base, but it also feels intentionally designed for Trump himself. A 3-hour, high-definition ego fix for a president who no longer regularly receives adulation from screaming crowds at mega rallies. Fox and Friends offers daily affirmation that Trump is successful and adored, that his America is winning after all. Trump is living an illusion because Fox and Friends is presenting one. Psychology suggests that the program's particular trappings have effects on viewers that go beyond ego stroking. The fast pace, the cheerfulness, the breezy confidence are a combination tailor-made for maximum persuasion. So Fox and Friends is a secret propaganda program. Fox and Friends is being programmed. There is an all-out, full-fledged frontal assault to destroy Fox News. And going after this show now? Folks, we take a break. Trump is on his way to Atlanta, the NRA convention. First president since Ronaldus Magnus to address the NRA. I've addressed the NRA. Not one of my best moments either. I'll explain that. We'll have sound bites also from the President Reagan trip there. Back after this, folks. Don't go away. Okay, I got to share this quote from the Fox and Friends is destroying the Trump. Trump's getting a distorted view of America by watching Fox and Friends. This reporterette, by the way, at Politico, her name is Joanna Weiss. She probably never watched this show until she was assigned to by the assignment editor at Politico. She was shocked. And I want you to listen. This is really, even though this is hilarious and uproariously funny, it still is a very, very wide open window into the soul and the mindset of the American media, the American left. She goes and talks to a professor at the University of Delaware who studies the way people process political information. Her name is Danagal Young. And here's the quote from the Delaware University professor who studies the way people process political information. Are you ready for this? When we are feeling happy and people are smiling around us, it ignites a primal response that is, things are good, things are great. I don't have to be careful. I don't have to think carefully. The show is a ticket to a kind of self-perpetuating state of complacency. This is actually a complaint about thinking positively. This is a complaint and a warning. If you happen to be optimistic, optimism in today's America is akin to being blind. When you're optimistic with Trump president and the Democrats not in power and with all of this ruckus going, if you're optimistic while all this is happening, then you are not thinking. You are being programmed. You don't have to be careful. I'm sure it's happened. I just can't recall the instance, but this is a direct reference to the fact that being optimistic and positive is a mental problem, a disability. Think about that. No, ESPN can fix this. ESPN is in deep trouble because they are purposely injecting left-wing politics into sports. They have people doing it, don't know how to do it. I've often said, don't try this, what I do at home. If ESPN wants to bring politics back, and if they want to do it right, and if they want to win with it, they should ask me how to do it. If you're going to bring politics, into sports, the politics better be about sports. People watching ESPN don't care what any of these numbskulls care about Donald Trump or Paul Ryan or any of this. But I'm not going to give the answers away. Well, Linda Cohn, who I met, by the way, she was at WABC when I first started. She was in the news sports department there before she went to ESPN. She's got a piece in the New York Post, or an interview in the New York Post, where she says, hey, it's not just cord cutting that is causing people to leave and not watch ESPN. And it's not just the layoffs are not just happening because they've overpaid for rights to televise the NBA, like $24 billion to broadcast NBA games. She said they're turning people off with content by injecting uber left-wing politics. And she's exactly right. If they want to do it, they need to talk to somebody who knows how to do this. That would be somebody like me. There's clearly a bunch of rank amateurs over there. Sports writers are already pretend journalists. They wish they were in the news beat, but they're not. So this is how they're trying to stake their claim to being real journalists, by injecting politics into what they do, so they get noticed by the big boys at news journalism. Anyway, here is President Reagan at the NRA, May 6, 1983. Now, Trump's on his way there. He's the first president since Reagan to speak to the NRA. 4 years ago, this is an interesting little tidbit. 4 years ago, almost to the day, Barack Hussein Obama became the first sitting president to ever address a Planned Parenthood conference. Bill Clinton did not attend one. I don't know if Hillary did as a representative of Bill Clinton, but I do know that Obama was the first sitting president to ever address a Planned Parenthood conference. Now, ask yourself a question. Obama wouldn't go to the NRA. Of course not. Gun violence, too many unnecessary deaths. It's just carnage out there. There's no way. We want to take guns away from people. Ask yourself something. Who has killed more people with their policies? The NRA or Planned Parenthood? Hint, it's not even close. Planned Parenthood and their policies are responsible for 1.3 million abortions a year. The NRA can't even get close. And yet, where's Obama? All concerned with saving lives and preventing danger, and so forth. Here is Reagan in 1983. The NRA convention that year was in Phoenix.
I'm delighted to be with all of you. It does my spirit good to be with people who never lose faith in America, who never stop believing in her future, and who never back down 1 inch from defending the constitutional freedoms that are every American's birthright.
They went nuts out there. This was just a couple of months after he was shot by John Hinckley, by the way, just 2 months after the attempted assassination.
It's a nasty truth, but those who seek to inflict harm are not fazed by gun control laws. I happen to know this from personal experience. I've always felt a special bond with the members of your group. You live by Lincoln's words. Important principles may and must be inflexible. Your philosophy put its trust in people, so you insist on individuals be held responsible for their actions.
Right on. The applause throughout Reagan's speech to the NRA in 1983 was never ending. Here's an example that our final bite.
The NRA believes that America's laws were made to be obeyed and that our constitutional liberties are just as important today as 200 years ago. And by the way, the Constitution does not say that government shall decree the right to keep and bear arms. The Constitution says the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
That went on and on and on, and Reagan just owned the event. So we are waiting on President Trump. I don't know what time he's scheduled to actually make the speech, but he left about, half hour ago. Washington to Atlanta, 1 hour 15 maybe. So I'm thinking he's got a 2 o'clock scheduled address. It's probably known out there. I just haven't seen the time. I'm just guessing based on my deep knowledge of flight times, ground transportation times, when you have no stoplights stopping you, no stop signs. So my guess would be around 2 o'clock. I spoke to the NRA early on. Wayne LaPierre invited me, and it was not my best. I'll tell you, it was not my best. And I have a sense of regret for a long time afterwards. They made me the most incredible rifle, custom-made rifle, presented it to me. Well, no, the reason was that I got too much advice on what the group was expecting. And I had one, one of the organizers, no, what we want to hear your historical references and knowledge, the efforts to restrict guns, and other people. No, don't do any of that. Just go out and be who you are. Talk about whatever's on your mind today, tailored to the NRA. So I started thinking about it too much, and I tried to please every potential faction in the audience. And it's a lesson. Just don't listen to what other people tell you they expect. If somebody invites you to speak, it's because they want you for who you are. Just go be that. And when it wasn't bad, folks, it could have been, it wasn't my best. That's the thing. And I never forget those that weren't the best, because it's untapped potential. At any rate, to the phone. Oh, the call I was going to take bumped out. Well, let me see if there's anybody up there. Wow. Let's try Overland Park, Kansas. Since I grew up in a shack there, we have a call named Deb, Overland Park. Great to have you. Welcome to the EIB Network. Hello.
Rush, thank you so much.
You bet.
I've heard so many callers say that it is an honor to talk to you, and believe me, it is. It is an honor to talk to you and hear your voice. I'm a longtime listener, and I just want to thank you for and let you know that we are all so grateful out here for the many, many hours that you put into your work to prep daily and deliver such a succinct program while commingling all the day's news into one show. I mean, it is an extraordinary talent that you have, and you are an immense blessing. But what I wanted to tell you and to share with you is that recently in a Bible devotion that I was reading, I came across the meaning of the word rush. And it is a Hebrew and Aramaic word, rush, that means spirit, breath, or wind. And this word is actually used extensively in the Old Testament to describe the Spirit of God. And it says that rush is the bringer of life to man. Rush is the hand of God in history, and rush is God working his way. So I just thought
you found this. You found this in a devotional?
Yes, devotional, a Bible devotional. Mm-hmm.
I'm blown away. I've not heard that. I'm used to being called, rock, things like that, but.
Well, I know that the left thinks that you're air turbulence, but you are a blessing to us, and
well, you are so sweet. Your whole call has just been a never-ending bit of upbeat optimism. You must be one of these people who watch Fox and Friends and don't know how bad things really are out there.
Actually, I do watch them. I think they're wonderful.
Seriously, thank you so much. You are very shrewd and perceptive, the way you put all that together. Before you got to the name. Before you started talking about the name Rush, just the way you analyze what I do here, it's very perceptive, and I'm profoundly appreciative. Really am.
Well, thank you very much. It is an honor, and I enjoy listening to you every day.
I'm glad you called. Well, believe me, the honor is mine being able to be here every day. I do not take that for granted. I appreciate it very much, Deb. We have an obscene profit break to take, and we'll be right back. All right, so I blew it by a half hour. Trump's speech is at 1:30, not 2 o'clock, at the NRA in Atlanta. All right, here's that story. It's from the Washington Free Beacon. Yale grad students go on symbolic hunger strike where they are allowed to eat. A group of Yale University grad students announced Tuesday night that they would be undertaking a hunger strike to pressure the administration into granting them better union benefits. The strike is taking place in front of the home of the university president, Peter Salovey. Yale wants to make us wait and wait and wait until we give up and go away, the 8 members of the Graduate Student Union Local 33 announced. When I ran through these stats, I could see shock on the faces of staff on the other side of the glass here. Let me run through this again. Yale doctoral students. These are graduates. For those of you in Rio Linda, they're not saying to be doctors like medical doctors. These are postgraduate scholarship degrees, like Doctor of Philosophy or Doctor of Democracy or what have you. Like I have my PhD in democracy. Yale doctoral students currently earn a stipend of $30,000 a year. They get free health care. They have their $40,000 tuition paid in full. And that's not enough. Free health care, $30,000 a year stipend, and $40,000 tuition paid for. University administration said in a statement they understood the students' concerns, but they strongly urge the students not to put their health at risk or encourage others to. Come on, how you put your health at risk when you go on a hunger strike you can eat? As it turns out, it says here, the hunger strike might not put anybody's health in peril, according to a pamphlet posted on Twitter by a former Yale student. A hunger strike is symbolic. Protesters can leave and get food when they can no longer go on. When they can no longer go on. It doesn't take much for liberals to think they're acting heroically, does it? It doesn't take much for people on the left to think they're really courageous, does it? They're allowed to eat when they can no longer go on. There's a tweet that has since been deleted that sums this up perfectly. Some guy named Dmitry Halikius. The Yale Grad Student Union is holding a symbolic hunger strike. Still, it's inspirational. He's being hammered for this tweet, and so has taken it down. Protected his account. By then the tweet had spread, and others on social media mocked the sacrifice of the Yale graduate student. Well, at least there's that. At least there was only one tweet that was praising these people for courageous behavior and inspirational behavior. At least they're being mocked. Hey, did you see Obama's accepted another $400,000 speech? That's 2 of them now. The first $400,000 speech was from a Wall Street firm, Cantor Fitzgerald. It slips my mind who the second one is from, but I have an idea. $400,000. That's how much he made per year as president. And we're told that liberals don't care about money. We're told that liberals do what they do for altruistic reasons. We're told that liberals are compassionate. They care. They don't care about getting rich. They aren't rich. And they, of course, have negative comments and things to say about everybody who is rich. And yet when they have a chance to money grub, they go out and do it. Now, if Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren were actually honest when articulating their class envy and class warfare rhetoric. For example, if they really mean it when they say they want to tax the rich, you know how they can prove it? Suggest a 90% tax rate on all speech income above $50,000. Wasn't it people like Obama and Clinton who tried to limit the tax deductibility corporations paid their CEOs above $1 million a year? So it's very simple. Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, made to order, put your mouth where your policy is. Suggest a 90% tax on all speech income over $50,000. Don't hold your breath, folks. It'll never happen. But if they were honest and if they really meant this class warfare stuff, they would be just as irritated when liberals get rich as they are when Republicans and conservatives do so. Paul in Fort Walton Beach, Florida, as he head back to the phones here on Open Line Friday. Welcome, sir. Great to have you here.
Yeah, wonderful to speak with you, Rush. The national reporting indicates that the House Leadership Health Plan will probably be brought up for a vote today, certainly early next week. And I think this would be a tremendous mistake, both for the country and for the Republican Party and for President Trump. First of all, the plan is would result, according to CBO scoring, in premiums going up. This would be a complete renege on President Trump's campaign promise to repeal Obamacare. It isn't really a repeal of Obamacare; it's just a renaming of it. Senator Rand is correct. It's not Ryan Care or Rhino Care. It's actually Obamacare 1 or 2.0.
Let me suggest to you it's never going to be brought up. The reason it's not being brought up today is they don't have the votes for it, and they're not going to have the votes for it next week. All this is nothing more than a public exercise to make it look like they're trying, to make it look like they're getting close, and to make it look like they're following through the promise. You know, I mentioned a long time ago that there's a bunch of Republicans that do not want to get rid of Obamacare. This is never going to have Republican unanimity on getting rid of it, much less repealing it and replacing it. There's no unanimity on even repealing it. And today, Byron York has a story. 30 to 40 Republicans do not want to touch it. They don't want to repeal it. They don't want to change it. They don't want to get rid of it. They're scared to death. They believe voters like it, and they don't want to even get involved. If 30 to 40 Republicans are not going to vote to get rid of it, you can say sayonara to the whole thing. And we're back, but just for a brief moment of time to tell you we have lots more coming up. We have a top of the hour local affiliate break, and we do some obscene profit-making ourselves in this little break, but the local affiliates tell you what's going on where you live and whatever else, and we'll be right back and continue before you know it. I don't know why all the shock. Story is right here. Myron York has it. I have mentioned this. It's more than 5 times. I know I've talked about this since this whole Obamacare thing got started. The numbers of Republicans that don't want this thing repealed, the Washington establishment wants nothing to happen to Obamacare or anything else they've done. Myron York, April 27th. Story came out last night. Why can't House repeal Obamacare? Because a lot of Republicans don't want to. Right here it is.
Live from the Southern Command in sunny South Florida, it's Open Line Friday.
He does the math. Republicans have 238 seats in the House. Repealing Obamacare requires 217 votes. They're not even close, even without this. Actually, this whole repeal and replace Obamacare, this is, if you ask me, this is just a giant political scam that they're trying to run on everybody. There's no intention to repeal this. I don't think. But anyway, here's the math. Republicans have 238 seats in the House. The repeal of Obamacare will require 217 votes. Even with unanimous Democrat opposition, Republicans could lose 21 votes and still prevail. They've got a 21-vote cushion. They can lose 21 votes. Why haven't they done it? Why haven't they come up with something that could get 217 votes in the House? Are you telling me they can't? No, it's more like telling you they won't. And as Mr. York writes here, by this time it's becoming increasingly clear the Republicans haven't repealed Obamacare because a lot of Republicans do not want to repeal Obamacare. And he says the number's between 35 and 40 Republicans. And it's not some moderate, some conservative. It's just between 35 and 40 Republicans that don't want to repeal it. We'll see here. Another Republican member in an email exchange to Myron York estimated there are 25 to 30 House Republicans who don't want to be forced to make the repeal vote. That's a lower number than the 40 to 50 number that's being bandied about, but even that lower number would be enough to sink a repeal measure. There are a lot of Republicans, say 40 to 50, who don't want to repeal Obamacare. The reasons are multifaceted. Some don't want to repeal it because they don't want to have to replace it with something. Some don't want to repeal it because they think their constituents would go nuts. Some don't want to repeal it because it's already an entitlement. People are already expecting it. We never take entitlements away from you. The reasons run the gamut. But you need to just chalk this up to just another one of these things that seems like it doesn't matter whether we win the presidency or not. It doesn't matter whether we win the House, control the Senate or not. There's just certain things that aren't going to happen. The AP, Trump will not get a House of Representatives okay of health care bill before his 100th day. President Trump seems destined to serve his 100th day in office without House passage of a major Republican health care bill or enactment of a budget financing the government for the rest of the year. Right before the program started, or it was right after the program started, they struck a deal to extend the budget for one more week. Yes, my friends, what courage. Need to sign these people up with the hunger strikers at Yale. Another full week budget extension to run the government so that it doesn't have to shut down. So next week it's going to be just like this one. Same arguments. Will there be a government shutdown? Will Donald Trump be able to get something in his first 107 days? And on it will go. Now, why don't Republicans want to repeal this? I think this predates Trump, by the way. To be honest with you, I think the lack of desire to repeal Obamacare, this heavy lifting. It's leadership. This party did not expect to be in this position. Remember now, they thought they were going to lose and lose handily. They thought Trump would maybe get 20% of the vote. They would be wiped out, lose their House majority, never win the Senate. Hillary in the White House, that's what they were prepping for. Now they've got entirely different set of circumstances, and they involve leadership. And it's not something that I don't think they want to go there. Now, you would think, though, and I wouldn't blame you for thinking this, if you start to ask, well, where's Trump on this? For crying out loud, Trump's elected president. Trump's got a mandate. This was clearly part of it, like building the wall. Like any number of other things, repealing and replace Obamacare was mentioned at every rally, so why doesn't the president go in there and tell them what for? This is what LBJ did. LBJ treated them like a bunch of beagles. He'd grab those Republicans by the ears and put them up to the White House lawn and tell them the way things are going to be. You know, some LBJ sometimes would only take phone calls from Republicans when he was in the toilet. He was one of the most partisan guys. Of course, they love him because Doris Kearns Goodwin wrote all these profiles, and they loved Doris Kearns Goodwin. But LBJ was a no-nonsense guy. You wonder, why can't Trump go in there? Look, guys, I won the election. Here's what we're going to do. Well, because the House has many Republicans that are not happy that Trump won, and I'm telling you, I'm going to get blue in the face. You know it as well as I do. The Republican, Democrat, the establishment of Washington wants to wait Trump out. They are not going to let Trump shape Washington if they can help it. And the way they do that is to not let Trump have any major legislation passed and signed into law. They want to keep Trump on the executive order reservation. Remember, with executive orders, you're not allowed to make new law. You're allowed to enforce law. You're allowed to make statements about the law, sort of like signing statements to pieces of legislation you sign. They don't carry the force of law, but they express a president's intent. No, I know Obama made law with executive order. It doesn't mean it's legal. It doesn't mean you can. Trump hasn't really tried to. But that's the reservation that they want to keep him on. I've actually had people send me, well, why go get all these strong-arm advisors in there then? I mean, I had a couple of emails, interestingly enough. What's Bannon doing? We hear about Bannon being this no-nonsense guy who's going to get rid of the administrative state. And how come they're not moving the ball at all? So people are starting to notice here. And they're starting to raise questions about it. And the answer is not all that satisfactory. Well, you know, there's not enough Democrats, not enough Republicans in the Senate, so whatever the House does, it's going to die there because they don't have 60 votes, yada, yada, yada. You know, Ronald Reagan got two massive tax cuts with a Democratic Congress led by one of the biggest opponents he would ever face, Thomas P. Tip O'Neill Jr., as Speaker of the House. How did Reagan do? Well, he had 49 state landslide. That's one thing. And back then, back in the 80s, if you got beat by a 49 state landslide, as the Democrats did, then you had one choice. You had to acknowledge the existence of the will of the people, and you had to give it credence, you had to acknowledge it, and you had to admit that you lost. And repairing yourself meant creating the illusion that you were listening to the people. That's gone now. When Democrats lose the election, they don't respect that. They don't respect the authority of the election. They don't respect the authority of the Constitution. When they lose in an electoral vote of 308 to Trump and whatever Hillary got, that doesn't tell them they have to change a thing. All that tells them is they got to stop Trump and stop the Republicans. Pure and simple. And so far, Trump has not been able to overcome the opposition he faces from the Washington establishment. And he's at some point going to have to. Because, folks, you can't do everything by executive order. You're going to change the tax code, it's going to have to be legislation. If you want to change immigration law, if you want to change it, it's going to have to be with legislation. Now, the states can do so. You see what Texas is doing with sanctuary cities? Folks, this is magnificent. Texas is not waiting. They're just declaring sanctuary cities illegal, and if they have to, they are saying they're going to jail police chiefs and sheriffs who refuse to enforce the law. They are through. They're not going to take it anymore. We have some hand-wringers out there in the blogosphere wondering if this is maybe not going a bit far. Jailing police chiefs and sheriffs, maybe there's a better way, but maybe Texas knows what it's doing. We'll just have to wait and see, blah, blah. They are serious about it. Well, because they're in many of these sanctuary cities, the police department sabotage the ICE, the immigration officials who are trying to enforce the law. In many of these sanctuary cities, the local police department and the sheriffs are sympathetic to the leadership of the city. San Francisco, glaring example. And it's true in Texas, too. If you go to a place like Austin, there is no way the city of Austin is going to willingly give up its sanctuary city status, or a city like Austin. So the Governor Abbott said, to hell with it. We're going to enforce this law. It's against the law to have sanctuary cities, and if you run one, and if you will not participate in ridding your city of illegal citizens, we'll put you in jail. Let me take a break. We'll continue. It's Open Line Friday. Great to have you back. Rush Limbaugh at 800-282-2882. Back to the phones. Open Line Friday at 800-282-2882. Robbie, in my adopted hometown of Sacramento, California. You know, I was thinking about Sacramento last night, Robbie. I don't know why, but I was something about, my brother had mentioned a name as somebody he talked to out there as he's selling his book, promoting his book out there. I was thinking about how much I owe Sacramento, and 30 years ago, it just blows my mind. Anyway, welcome. It's great to have you here on the program.
Hi, Rush Limbaugh. It's another sunny day here in Sacramento. Sunny and windy and allergy-y.
You're sounding a little bit too optimistic. You must be watching Fox and Friends.
No. Okay, there are several things that I love about you, Rush. But the one that encourages me and inspires me the most is that you are an overcomer. May I take a moment to explain how I have arrived at this conclusion about you?
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you. It will help me build to my question. So you have overcome poverty. You know what it's like to make $19,000 a year, and probably less than that, and now you can spend $19,000 at the snap of fingers. You know what it's like to drive an old jalopy of a car, and now you carry around $100 bills to tip the valets. You've overcome career woes. You know what it's like to be fired, and now you make a fine living doing what you love every day. You've overcome disability. You have a hearing disability, and you're the king of radio. You've overcome the misconceptions and the misunderstandings of your intellectual father. Your intellect didn't respond to the confines of the American academic structure, and now you write history books, and you're America's teacher. And last, you daily, for decades now, overcome slander and lying and deliberate misrepresentation. And President Trump might be the only other person I see subjected to at the same level that you are, and you both overcome it with grace. So, my question, since you understand Trump so well, and since you are yourself, I wanted to ask your advice for those of us in your audience who are subjected to slander and lying and misrepresentation and false narratives, the more and more that we stand up for what is true and what is right.
you want to you want to know how to deal with it? Is that the question?
I want your advice. How do you overcome it with such grace? What advice do you have for us who, at a different level, are still subjected to it?
Okay, first off, let me ask you, would you like to write my biography?
Sure, let's do it.
That was just, I'm blown away by your, that was just one nice thing after another. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. That denotes an awareness on your part. You're extremely aware. You've noticed things and you remember them, and that's. You should have seen my face as you're going through this, and everybody else's. They were applauding you on the other side of the glass.
Oh, well, I've been listening to what you say for a very long time.
Well, it's obvious that you have, and it kind of floors me because I don't, I never hear anything like what you just said. I never ever hear it. So it's a combination of appreciation and a little embarrassment. Not quite know how to react to it other than to say thank you and to applaud your perception, because you're right about practically all of it. Now, overcoming this, or how to deal with what you call the defamation or the slander, I have an advantage. I'll have to tell you, and the advantage is this microphone and this show, and for all of the times, all the instances where I am lied about or misrepresented or whatever the other things are that you said, I can come here every day and disprove it on a mass basis to the people who matter, and that is the people like you, people in the audience. Outside of the audience, I mean, there's not much I can do to change what those people think, but I do have an opportunity to counter all that just by being myself. I get the chance to demonstrate how those allegations, the defamation, the slander, as you call it, isn't true by simply coming. That's something you don't have. Most people, what kind of defamation, slander you talking about? By association, by being, say, a Trump supporter, you go out to a Trump rally or any kind of a rally, and the opponents come up and they start calling you names, or you get associated with Trump, and you're nameless, but they still accuse you of being all these reprobate things he is. You wondering how to deal with that too? You mean?
No, I mean. Trump factors into it a little bit, but it's been going on for a long time just because I am a truth lover and I stand up for the truth.
And a conservative. As a conservative, you're institutionally attacked.
Yes, true, but some of it's more personal. It's in your own family where I think that family members get threatened by the truth, so then they make up a false narrative like, oh, she's just unstable, or they'll just come up with all kinds of mean things. One time, actually, I called into your show, and Mr. Snerdley put on an opposing view right after me, which I thought was great to do. And the woman's first words were, "Oh, wow, I'd love to live in the mind of your last caller with Peter Pan and the Easter Bunny." So she didn't have an intelligent response to what I had presented, so she just went immediately for the attack.
Exactly.
To basically say this person's crazy.
Okay, look, I've got to take a break here. Can you hold on during the break?
Sure.
Because I'm not quite sure yet what you're looking for, but I want to find out, because I think I've got an answer for you. And we are back with Robbie in Sacramento, who we were interrupted here by the necessity of a commercial break. And just look, you have to excuse my asking this over and over again. It's my hearing. I'm not quite sure. I want to make sure what you're asking me before I go into an answer that's maybe off tangent. Explain to me exactly what it is that you are asking me for advice on, if that's what it is, or suggestions or what have you. Because what I gather is that you are suffering defamation, slander, unreal lying, mean-spirited criticism in your family and other places. You're wondering What's the best way to deal with it, how to survive it, how to counter it, how to overcome it, how to destroy the people doing it? What is it that you want to know?
No, I think a lot of us experience this, I guess we could call it suffering, this type of suffering when we stand up for truth and when we stand up for what's right. And often what happens with the people that disagree with us is they just immediately come on the attack.
Right.
If they have to make up things about you, if they have to lie about you, make up a false narrative. Like at work, some of the women don't like that I'm successful at some of the work I do, so they just make up a false narrative. She's incompetent. It's not true. I know it's not true, but how do you respond? How do you overcome that with grace? Do you just like totally put the blinders on, block it out, don't pay attention?
That's what I do.
What's your advice?
That's what I do. I just ignore it. When it first started, this is one of the areas of this job that I was entirely unprepared for and totally ill-equipped for, and nobody had any answer for me. 6 months after I started this show, all of a sudden, for the first time in my life, I'm a nationwide racist, sexist. I hate women. I hate African. My gosh, if this sticks, I'm destroyed before I even start. So I'd run around asking people how do you deal with this. And every person I asked had a different theory, which told me there's no universal answer to this. The most common answer I got that made sense was to ignore it. Because the minute you react to it, and this is something I strongly disagree with President Trump on. I think he elevates the criticism he gets, and I think he expands it and extends it by responding to it. I've always tried to, in my own mind, be bigger than the critics or the criticism. I've tried to look at responding to them as the equivalent of punching down, which is something you never do. You never waste time on people beneath you. You never give them the time of day. What they say, what they think, who they are. If they're coming after you and they're gnats, if they're just vermin running around behind the wall, just ignore them. It's a mistake to give them the pleasure of knowing they've upset you. It's a mistake because then you're going to elevate what they're saying and expand it to a whole bunch of people who will not hear what they say, who don't know what they say. Now, I can know the objections that you have to this too. Well, some people are going to believe them. But you can't control that unless you want to try to make an appointment with everybody in your office that you don't know or wherever these people are uttering their criticism. If you want to have a personal meeting with everybody you think might believe this, you could do that. But all you're going to end up getting is, man, this woman is really bothered by this. There must be something to it. Responding to it, I have found, never is as effective as ignoring it. There are exceptions to that. It's seductive. Responding to it, nuking them, destroying them. It just, in my case, it's never worked. It has always prolonged it. What you're talking about also is a healthy mental attitude in the face of all this. Yes. Another benefit to ignoring it is you don't think about it. And the worst thing that you can do is to become focused on or obsessed by the criticism. Because one thing about this that is undeniable, if you are going to be a truth teller, and this is not a sop, by the way, and I am not being patronizing, and I firmly believe this. In our culture today, and where we're headed and where we are, standing up for the truth is to make yourself a target. And in fact, it always has been when you get right down to it. If you're going to stand up for the truth, you're going to have to expect to get some of this. And you're going to have to acknowledge that it's the league you've chosen to play in. If you're going to be loud about it, if you're going to try to make a point of it, if you're going to try to be a leader on what you think is the truth, you're going to have to acknowledge that a lot of people are going to be put off by it. Some are going to be scared. Some are going to be mad. Some are going to be whatever. And the more people you make uncomfortable with it, the more they're going to try to harm you because they're going to look at you as the source of their discomfort. Another reason why, just ignore it and take your strength and take your comfort and solace in the self-knowledge you're being true to yourself. And I'll tell you what gets me through. I cannot emphasize this enough. I'll give you an example. When this whole episode with Michael J. Fox happened, and I was being mischaracterized as making fun of people with Parkinson's disease, you know what got me through that? Because you're talking about being lied about. I mean, for 6 months, this was during a presidential or maybe a Senate. It was an election year, a big election year. And I was being used in campaign ads against a Republican candidate in the Senate. And it was being lied about, tarred and feathered, and there were all kinds of efforts being made to get me off the air because of my NC. You know what gets me through that?
What?
One thing only, and that is the full-fledged trust that all 22 million people in this audience know it's bogus. That all 22 million people in this audience knew what was happening, that none of them were going to abandon me, and in fact had my back, and were never going to go away, were never going to fall for it, and they didn't. Now, you can't, unless you get a radio show like this, you can't have that kind of imaginary support, but you do have people you know, and you do have people you love, and you do have people that care about you. And if you have total trust that they've got your back when you're being maligned, when you're being impugned, that should count for a lot in terms of your mental health. We human beings, all of us, are programmed early on to be concerned, and some people are even worse than that, about what other people think of us. And the simple fact is, you can't change what people who do not know you think about you. All you can do is take solace in the fact people who do know you and the people you do love are not going to fall for these attempts to impugn or destroy or whatever. So you're going to have your own support group, whatever size it is, plus your own self-confidence that you are being true to what you believe in and true to the people you love. And that is probably the best thing that could sustain you.
So you've got to know who your people are.
You do. You have to, and you have to trust them. You have to have confidence in them. And I tell you, I do. Whenever anything like that, Michael J. Fox said, anyone, it doesn't matter. I have never quaked in fear here over any of these controversial things I've been. Why do you think, you probably know, you're shrewd, why do you think I know full well that Donald Trump's audience, his voters, will never abandon him because of things other people say? Why do you think I know that the only way Trump can lose his voters is he does something? The media cannot destroy him, no matter how. They cannot destroy him with his base. The media cannot destroy the connection Trump supporters and voters have with him. Only Trump can do that.
Well, my supposition is that because you have experienced the same thing with your listeners.
Exactly. Despite everything, and I look at it, despite everything I've put this audience through, they're there. And it's a larger number today than it's ever been. I have every reason in the world to trust the intelligence and awareness of people in this audience. They know when things about me being said are not true. They know when they are true. They know, and they're not affected by it. They don't split. They don't leave. I've got 29 years of evidence of this. I can't tell you how sustaining that is. Why I try to express my gratitude for the people in this audience as often as I do.
Well, it's certainly true of me, and clearly it's true of millions and millions others.
Well, it can be. Thank you, but you can make it true for yourself too if you're in a similar circumstance. I mean, because what you're talking about is people lying about you. They're attacking you simply because you're standing for the truth. They don't want to hear it, whatever it makes them fear, and they're trying to damage you. They're trying to do some kind of damage to you. And you have your own ability to withstand it with whatever group of people in your life know you and trust you and are able to learn very quickly when this criticism is bogus or when it's accurate. But they're not going to abandon you because of it. And that is sustaining. It's comforting, and it can promote confidence as well. Where people get into trouble, Robbie, is when they start paying more attention and being more concerned about what the people they don't know think of them. That's a recipe for disaster. That's the first step towards somebody losing their identity. Based on what I've learned, the greatest bit of advice that I would ever give people or be able to gift is if I could convince everybody I met to not care what they say about you, to not be destroyed by it, because it changes the definition of who you are. You stop being yourself when you think you have to be something for what. And the mistake people make when they do this, we all do it. It's human nature. We make the mistake of thinking we're the only ones screwed up, and the people judging us have it all together. So we think the people judging us are cool or hip or they're right or whatever, and we are the ones with the fallacy or the faults. So we have to do something to show them they're wrong. And when you start down that path, you cease being who you are. When the truth is, they're just as screwed up and insecure as you or anybody else is. And they're doing the same thing. They're trying to make other people think positively of them. Everybody's doing the same thing in a giant circle. And you'll note the people who really succeed and stand out and go great guns are those who don't care what the people they don't know think about them. There are exceptions to this, of course, depending on what your business. Like Michael Jordan, for example, he can't purposely antagonize Republicans because they buy tennis shoes. So he has to shut up. He's not out there trying to make everybody love him, but he wants to make sure that he doesn't turn people off to him needlessly. So there are exceptions to everything that I'm saying here. They're tailored to each person's specific life experience. But for me, it's just been ignore them and don't care what people think because they don't know. And look at what's happened to me today, Robbie. Your call alone, the 3 to 4 minutes that you took at the beginning of the call explaining who I am and why you admire me, that will get me through another 10 years. Because that is evidence that my trust and faith in the audience and that you know and understand has been validated. That 4 minutes is enough to give me confidence to know that I've made the right decisions and I'm doing the right things for who knows how many years. I mean, I can't tell you how valuable that really is. Back to the phones on Open Line Friday. John in Indianapolis, great that you waited. Great to have you with us. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. Hey, you know that last phone call? You said you just had another 10 years, and I hope you do, especially when you said you were retiring at 4. So, anyway, I think you have more than 22 million listeners a day. What's your take on Goodell getting booed at the NFL draft?
Now, see, that's an interesting question. Let me ask you this. Roger Goodell, he goes out and announces the picks in the first round of the NFL draft. Roger Goodell, there were even stories about this in the sports media. He knows he's going to get booed. Why would he do it? Why would the owners let him go? In other words, wouldn't you send somebody out there that's going to be applauded? This is the NFL. They're concerned about their brand. Why do they want to send the commissioner out to the draft in Philadelphia where the first thing people are going to hear is the commissioner getting booed? Why? Why do you think they did it? Why do you think Goodell did it?
Why do I think he went out there?
Yeah, you want to know. You want to know why he's being booed. I'm asking you. He knew he was going to get booed. Why did he go out there and get booed? He could have chosen not to get booed by not going out there. He could have signed a Jay-Z. He could have signed who to go out there and make these picks, and the crowd would have gone nuts. But he went out there and took the boos. Why did he do it?
Because he leads a bad organization, and I think that the NFL has been going the wrong way for a long time.
Well, that's...
I do. I really do. I think that the NFL and the NBA have been tearing down coliseums and arenas and separating us and them via skyboxes. Because when you go to a game as a normal guy, you just feel separated. I mean,
Wait a minute, but that's not new. They've had skyboxes at NFL games for years, decades.
Well, okay, let's talk about where I.
But you're right. You're right. Why didn't you feel the separation 20 years ago where today you do?
Because as a kid, when my dad took me to games, when I saw, Chris Collinsworth and Boomer Esiason play in Riverfront Coliseum.
Well, no wonder you have a bad attitude about the NFL. You're a Bengals fan.
No. I also went to see Walter Payton play in Soldier Field. Look at it now. It looks like a spaceship's landed in there. Why?
Yeah.
Because of skyboxes.
Yeah. Okay, this is interesting to me. So you're looking at Goodell being booed as a symbol of the problems the NFL has.
It's displaced aggression.
Right, that they seem to be ignoring. Okay,
right.
Look, thank you. Okay, since I now understand you, I will tackle this in the monologue segment next hour. Make sure you stay tuned and don't hang up. We've got to take a break. We'll be back. So, you think the people at ESPN know why they're losing subscribers? Let me ask you a question. You think the people at CNN know why they have no audience? And they're proud. Does CNN make any change whatsoever to try to change and grow an audience? No. Because they're being given awards and accolades for being true to the liberal cause. No. They did not say that I was retiring in 4 years. The last caller, I never said it was. All I did was extend my current partnership agreement for 4 years. Who said anything about retiring? I've never said that.
Live from the Southern Command in sunny South Florida, it's Open Line Friday.
I'll tell you what, if I did say I was retiring in 4 years, can you imagine what would happen? Oh my, you can't comprehend how big it would get. But I'm not, that's not what I said. Anyway, great to have you back here, folks. Rush Limbaugh, the fastest 3 hours in media. We got 2 hours down, 1 to go. Open Line Friday, where you can talk about whatever you want. 800-282-2882 is the number, the email address, lrushbo@eibnet.us. That last caller and his questions about Goodell, you see, my original interpretation of his call was wrong. He was happy Goodell got booed. He thinks Goodell should keep getting booed. He thinks the NFL is doing great damage to itself by, bifurcating. It's becoming a league of haves and have-nots, and they are continuing to exploit the have-nots for the benefit of the haves. It's almost a parallel argument to the way the Democrats talk about the Republican Party. Everything they do is for the rich, the expense of the little guy, when it's not true, but it's just what they say. Now, I originally thought he was asking me about Goodell. Why do I think Goodell was booed at the draft last night? I don't know if you saw this. I made a point to watch the first 10 minutes of it just to say that I had watched it so I would have credibility. And I watched Goodell walk out, and I knew he was going to get booed. It still fascinates me that he does. I mean, Goodell doesn't play. Goodell doesn't do anything that has anything to do with on the field other than mete out fines and this kind of stuff. And I think the thinking of ownership is, and PR marketing people, hey, look, if our company, if our enterprise, the NFL, and don't doubt me on this, folks, I speak with great experience on this from my days with the Kansas City Royals. The thinking in the executive suites at all the teams, the owners, if our league is going to get booed, we would much rather have it be the commissioner than any of our players. Because nobody pays to watch the commissioner. If the commissioner is willing to take the hit, if the commissioner is willing to absorb all of the anger, if he's willing to go out there and make himself the piñata for everybody angry at the NFL to hit, then he's earning his money because he's taking it all. And in the process, I mean, if your league is going to be criticized, if your business is going to be ripped to shreds, and you're an owner in the NFL, you would much rather have the commissioner be the target of it than the players, because the players are what generate the revenue. The players is why people pay to watch the NFL. The players is why people buy jerseys and licensed merchandise. The players are the people you want to try to keep on a pedestal. The players are the people that you want to keep as much negativity away from as you can, which is why they're so hell-bent on suspensions and getting the bad actors off the stage. And why I think Goodell going out there and taking the boos is strategic. Other people think at it, like I'm watching these clowns on ESPN, very bad marketing. Holy, why would Goodell go out there and do this? He knows he's going to get booed. Why would he subject himself? Because better him than any of the players being drafted. What would if the first round draft pick gets drafted? Well, that's a disaster. You don't want that. You want people idolizing these players. You want people thinking these players are gods in their own right in the world of athletics. everybody looking up to these guys as not heroes. Don't misunderstand, but you don't want any negativity attached to them. And they're going to do enough of that on their own anyway. They're going to get into enough trouble on their own. The more negativism the commissioner can absorb, the better it is. You know why I learned this? I learned this when I was at Kansas City Royals. There were a couple of potential player strikes during the 5 years I was there. And I remember, and I'm early 30s. I'm still young as I can be. And I'm a little bit still kind of groupie-like, actually getting a job there. I mean, I'm not like every other normal American kid used to be. You grow up wanting to play Major League Baseball. Little League, Babe Ruth, do all this stuff. And you have these dreams of being a big leaguer someday. You get a job at a team. That was big deal. So I was still starry-eyed. And I remember, I don't remember the specific event. It might have been related to a potential player strike, or there might have been something specific going on. And I remember at lunch at a stadium club one day hearing the management of the team making the point that it was far preferable that somebody in management be taking the hit for whatever. The last thing they wanted was the players being the focus of the anger. And anything they could do to take the heat themselves, take the focus away from the players in terms of anything negative, they would be happy to do, because the players are the meal ticket. Not individually, but collectively. Players come and go. Average life in the NFL's, 4.5, 5 seasons, but it's the players themselves that are why people pay money, subscribe to ESPN, and all of that. So Goodell taking the booze, and he even egged them on. He's walking out there. He's in Philadelphia. They boo Santa Claus in Philadelphia. And Goodell acted like the boos were not loud enough. So he got to the podium. Come on, Philadelphia. Let me hear from the boos. Doubled and tripled in volume. All night long. He got booed all night long, but not a single player did. And not a single owner did. Nobody in a team got booed. So you can say that Goodell is absorbing all of it. And just because they hate a commissioner, even if they really do, I think it's kind of crazy to hate a commissioner anyway, but the media has generated that, so I'm sure some of it's legit. But as long as you hate the commissioner, hating the commissioner does not mean you're going to stop watching the NFL. It doesn't mean commissioners hated. Are you going to become less of a Cowboys fan if the commissioners hate? Hell no. Well, Goodell, did he bring it on himself? Excuse me here just a second. I've been asked if Goodell brought all the booing on himself. Well, I guess. Are you talking about the Ray Rice situation? Oh, come on. No. Kaepernick? You think Goodell is hated and despised or being booed because of what he did or didn't do with Kaepernick? No. Goodell's most recent round, I can't even remember everything, but the Ray Rice episode is what is remember that Ray Rice, spousal abuse. Let's not get into details. Don't need to relive that. The original suspension was like 20 minutes, 6 weeks or whatever. Then a new video was found, and so they had to suspend him for a year. And Goodell got grief for trying to go easy on the guy the first time around for not recognizing how serious it was. He was trying to protect the player, proving the NFL doesn't care about women. We don't care about Pink October. Goodell hates women. Do you see what he didn't do to Ray Rice because of what Ray Rice is? I thought that was the primary reason. Frankly, Deflate. Oh, yes, Deflategate. Well, I'll tell you the truth about Deflategate. That you're right. There are people really ticked off because they think that Goodell unfairly. See, by the way, this disproves my just announced theory. In Deflategate, they literally targeted their marquee player and they focused every bit of attention on destroying the reputation of their marquee player. Now, why would they do that? Snerdley's answer to please the rest of the NFL fans. You mean who think the Patriots are a bunch of cheaters? And so Goodell did. Well, this, of course, goes back not to Deflategate, but to Spygate, where it was discovered the Patriots were illegally videotaping and using, during games, evidence, steal signals, being able to predict what the opposing team was going to do in real time, very much against the rules. And there was a $600,000 fine for 400. Yeah, like about spying in the opposition. Anyway, their people thought the penalty was not nearly severe enough for the Patriots. And Belichick, who got a huge fine. What was it? $600,000? Could it be that much? I'll tell you what I think. This is why I should be on ESPN. Yeah, by the way, well, I will not interrupt myself here. I think Deflategate was, and don't quote me all you want, but I'm just supposing I don't know anything. So don't anybody call Goodell and say that Rush Limbaugh just told everybody what he knows, really, because I don't know. I'm just speculating here. Because to me, this made no sense. This goes against every marketing principle on earth. You do not try to take the perfect reputation and image of a star player and tarnish it and destroy it. And that's what they were doing. Now, some people think, well, but Rush, they were deflating. Grady was doing it. Everybody knows it. They couldn't have got rid of his cell phone. Doesn't matter. They went out of their way to cast Tom Brady and the Patriots in a negative. I couldn't understand it. I did not. The NFL's a TV show. Why in the world would you want to create and manufacture this kind of an image of one of your marquee players? And people said, but Rush, after doing this, they've just made Brady that much bigger. They've made Brady that much more a curiosity object. Yeah, but... So there has to be a reason for it, nevertheless. And I think, I know nothing. Zilch, zero, nada. I think that a lot of owners in the NFL thought the Patriots got off too lightly on that Spygate thing. I think they believe that the Patriots have been engaging in a lot more than they got caught doing. And I think there was a cadre of owners demanding that Goodell play this Deflategate thing out as a means of seeing to it the Patriots finally got some punishment. That's a wild guess on my part. I know nothing. And I'm a fan, so I can engage in speculation just like anybody else. Now, this story, we mentioned this at the top of the program. Linda Cohn, who I met when I got to New York at WABC, she was in the radio news and sports department there. And it wasn't long after that she went to ESPN as an anchor. She has a piece in the New York Post. She either wrote it or is being quoted here. ESPN sweeping staff cuts, they just laid off 100 people, and more are coming, are not just the result of ambitious TV rights deals and an overburdened budget. Linda Cohn said that the network may be losing subscriber revenue not just because of cord cutting, but because viewers are increasingly turned off by ESPN inserting politics into its sports coverage. Oh, she was on WABC. That's what this happened on, I guess it was yesterday afternoon. She said there's definitely a percentage of it. I don't know how big a percentage, but if anyone wants to ignore that fact, they're blind. She's not wrong. She's not. The president of ESPN is a guy named John Skipper, and he's just like Phil, what's his name at MSNBC? Phil, what was his name? Phil Griffin. I mean, they're dyed-in-the-wool leftists, and they're doing this on purpose. This isn't just a couple of ESPN anchors who happen to slip up one day and announce a political opinion. This is a purposely done strategy. because these people think that they are relating to the majority of Americans. They think a majority of Americans hate Trump. They think a majority of Americans are liberals and hate racist pig Republicans and what have you. They're totally misjudging their audience. There was a shareholders meeting. ABC owns Disney. And Iger got up there, and there were some shareholders asking about the politicization of ESPN, and Iger denied it. No, you're crazy. There's none of that going on. I don't know why you would ask that. Denied it. I think you've got a bunch of rank amateur sports writers trying to do politics and don't know what they're talking about. Like I said, ESPN, if you want to put politics into sports, you need professionals like me to be able to do it and do it the right way. You guys are throwing politics here into every discussion, and half the time, if not more, it's irrelevant to the event, to the players, whatever you're talking about. Once it starts becoming gratuitously anti-Trump or anti-Republican, you're not helping yourself here. And in many instances, these sports writer, these left-wing sports anchor reporters, broadcasters, whatever, are pretend political thinkers. They're hacks, just trying to get along with whatever they think the majority of their business thinks. You need seasoned professionals. And I, of course, am the trailblazer here. I got blown out of ESPN for being accused of doing what ESPN is now promising and trying to do. You talk about trailblazer? You talk about pioneers taking the arrows? I did. And it wasn't even that political. It was cultural. It never got conservative, Republican, Democrat, liberal, any of that. It was pure cultural. For 2 days, nobody noticed. Then they did. Then all hell broke loose. If you want to know how to do it, ESPN, give me a call. Donald Trump is addressing the NRA, and he just told the attendees here that we will build the wall. We are going to build the wall. He got a massive round of applause, but the point is he reasserted it yet again, which, remember, there aren't a whole lot of members of Congress who want to build the wall. Senators, as I reported yesterday, are openly laughing about the idea. It'll never happen. You believe Trump built his wall? They're never going to have 5 or 6 of them laughing about it. Anyway, Mike in Waverly, Nebraska. Great to have you. He's in a truck. It's great to have you on the program, Mike. How you doing?
Oh, good afternoon. I'm getting snowed on right now.
No kidding.
Yep. Halfway across Nebraska, and there's snow mixed in with this rain. But it's time for the student to teach the teacher. You got it wrong.
Uh-oh. What?
Yeah.
What did I get wrong?
Flammable liquid transportation engineer is not a pump jockey. That's a truck driver.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, tanker yanker.
I didn't mean to be insulting. I was just trying to come up.
Oh, I understand, but it's just one of those things.
But you do make a good point. Flammable transportation engineer would be a truck driver, absolutely, as opposed to
just
somebody.
like what I'm doing, a commodities relocation heavy equipment operator.
There you go. Truck driver. Where are you in Nebraska right now that it's snowing?
Grand Island. Just went through Grand Island, Nebraska.
No kidding. Wow, this is It's still April. You can still have snow in the upper Midwest. Well,
it's 39 degrees out there. What the hey?
Well, if I was a member of the drive-by media, I would say to you, be sure you drive carefully in the snow, and remember to turn into the skid.
Yeah, not with trucks.
I know.
Pulling a trailer.
Not a trailer. No, it's exact. The drive-bys don't know that, though. All right, Mike, thank you. I appreciate it. We've only got 30 big minutos remaining in the big broadcast, and we'll get to it after a brief, obscene profit break here at the bottom. Don't go away. It is Open Line Friday, so we head back to the phones. This is Bob in Coronado, California. I'm glad you waited, sir. You're next. How are you?
Good, thank you. Mr. Sturdley gave me permission to ask you 2 quick questions. One of them is, regarding the GDP, and the other one's Marine Le Pen. Regarding the GDP number today that came in at 0.7%, the lowest first quarter in 3 years.
Right.
I've been concerned that as Trump policies get initiated and that may become successful, that and this may be premature, but people may gently put their thumbs on the scales and tank the numbers somewhat, so that the conclusion will be like, look, GDP actually went down. Trump's policies aren't working. We need to raise taxes, not lower taxes.
Yeah, well, let me help you with that one. In the first place, I don't mean to be. Don't any of you out there get mad and be critical. But Trump's policies haven't been implemented yet, folks. We still have Obamacare. We still have not had any tax cuts. There hasn't been one serious, major Trump policy. The one thing that has happened, there's been a significant drop in illegal immigrants trying to get into the country, even before walls built. I mean, just with the idea that we've got a law and order president enough to really dial it back. I think you might also think that deep state embeds would jimmy the numbers and maybe downplay it. I'm not necessarily sure of that. I think in this case, we're still in the Obama economy, folks. In all sense. By the way, don't hang up on him. I got one more question to ask him. He's got one more to ask me. We still have the reality that we still have Obamacare. We haven't had any tax cuts yet. There hasn't been any Trump legislation that's been signed into law. There's nothing of grand significance that's happened yet. Trump's 100 days have been filled with yeoman effort. He's done as much as he could do with executive orders in charting a new course or a new path. I think your concern is real. I think that the Washington establishment does not want Trump to succeed at anything. For the reasons I've stated, he's an outsider. He doesn't know what he's doing. We can't let some upstart come in here and do things that show immediate improvement in the nation's economy. And after we've been telling people the last 30 years, this is it, this is the best it gets, and that we got to have a new normal here for Trump to come in and prove us wrong, we can't allow that to happen. Trump has a huge wall of opposition that he is up against each and every day that's trying to stop him, destroy him, what have you. So these first quarter numbers, the media is not even really making a big deal of them, folks, because it's too soon. Trump hasn't got enough of his fingerprints on things for these numbers to be related to much of what he's done. I think, in fact, that the trends are for greater employment. The trends right now are in line for economic revival simply based on the hope that Trump succeeds. Look at Wall Street. Just on Trump's inauguration and on the promises he was making about Obamacare and tax cuts, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, NASDAQ just went through the roof. Now it's starting to slow down a bit because of a concern that some of it might not happen. What was your question about Marine Le Pen?
Okay, Rush, here I think what's going to happen is I predict she'll lose. And I think people are going to say, I hope she doesn't lose, but I think if and when she loses, you're going to hear this is basically a reflection on Trumpism. In other words, the Trumpism is sort of losing its steam. And I would just remind people that Great Britain is very much like us in the Rust Belt, as an analogy. And France is much like a college student or people in the faculty lounge. I mean, just because Brexit passes and then Le Pen loses, I think they're two different things, and people will conflate them, that this sort of anti-globalism is no longer a big deal because
there's
what they did in France.
No question that you're right about that. Even if she wins, they'll try to say that she won by moderating and actually was more of a socialist leftist in the campaign than she was this globalist protection. They'll do anything in the world they can. They're still doing it here. Trump didn't really win. It was the Russians. They can't let go of Michael Flynn in the drive-by media today. It's uncanny. Michael Flynn, I don't know what new he's done, but probably nothing, but they want everybody to believe that this Flynn guy, now he didn't tell anybody that he was going to accept payment when he went to Russia. Except he wasn't paid by the Russian government or a Russian organization. Anyway, Bob, thanks for the call. Folks, I'm sure you've heard this story. If you haven't, you will now. I wonder what you think of this. Reuters got a pretty lengthy, exclusive interview with President Trump. And they have released elements of that interview in a series of stories. One of them is exclusive. Trump says he thought being president would be easier than his old life. They quote the president as saying, "This is more work than in my previous life. I thought it would be easier." They say he is isolated in the White House, that he's frustrated that he cannot drive. By the way, do not poo-poo that if you do. You know, driving is, I mean, you might chuckle at it, but driving is one of the most direct expressions of individual liberty and freedom. The ability to go out, buy your car, get in it, and go. There's a reason leftists love mass transportation, trains, buses, and other rot gut, light rail. The sooner they can get you out of their car, the better they would feel. The more people they get in mass transit, because they're the ones in controlling where you go and when you get there. Believe me, driving. When I moved to New York in 1988, I didn't drive for 8 years. Had to be driven everywhere, for a whole bunch of reasons. And when I moved to Florida in 1997, the first thing I did was send my lawyer out to buy a car. Didn't want the dealership to know it was me, and didn't want them following the guy home and all that. I remember getting in that car and feeling like I was reborn, being able to go when I wanted to go without having to tell anybody, without having to have a phalanx of security people and tell them what time I wanted to go, have them, advance an event to make sure the best interest, none of that. Just get in the car and go. Get in the car. If I want to make a call, pick up the phone. It was so exciting to get a cell phone built into the car system. And not being able to drive for 8 years, I mean, it wasn't something I was conscious of all day, every 8 years, and thinking that I was being denied something. It's just when I had the chance to start driving, the excitement of getting my first new car in like 10 years. And it was, and then getting it and driving, I'm telling you, it was, and Trump says he misses that, not being able to drive. And he can't. He will not be able to. Maybe a golf cart, but that's it. And it's a huge expression of independence, too, as well as freedom. But are any of you bothered when you hear him say, "Gosh, this is much more work than I thought it was going to be. This is much more work than my previous life"? Are any of you, for example, a little alarmed in the sense, how could you think that this wasn't going to be a busy job? How could you think that this was? Anybody have that kind of reaction? Are any of you alarmed that this is apparently one of the reactions the president gave to Reuters? Here's some of the other Reuters headlines. As Trump nears day 100, some stirrings of discontent. And this is within his staff. And supposedly more and more people in Trump's immediate orbit wish he would get off Twitter. Some of his supporters fret that Trump is backing himself into a corner with promises that he can't keep. Others lament that he's not pulling America from international conflicts as he promised, or that he should get off Twitter. Those grumbles are early warning signs for Trump as he marks his 100th day. Another Reuters story from the interview, exclusive: if there's a shutdown, there's a shutdown, Trump said. President Donald Trump downplayed the severity of a potential government shutdown on Thursday, just 2 days shy of a deadline for Congress to reach a spending deal to avert temporary layoffs of federal workers. There's no severity, and there's no temporary layoffs. This shutdown stuff, it long ago ceased to be related to any reality. Then there's this. New York Times. Trump tax plan would shift trillions from U.S. coffers to the richest. Thank you, New York Times. Right on schedule. We have a Republican proposing a tax cut, and what's going to be the end result? The rich are going to get richer. They don't even have to write this. Go back to the archives, copy and paste, and up and running. But my question is this. Headline, Trump tax plan would shift trillions from coffers, U.S. coffers, to the richest. How did that money, how did those trillions get in those coffers? How is it that the federal government has trillions of dollars in its coffers that somehow are now going to end up in the pockets of the rich? Where did those trillions that are now in the federal coffers come from? How did they get there? Grab soundbite number 22 quickly. Here's Trump and his comment on the wall at the NRA convention. This is moments ago.
We've already seen a 73% decrease, never happened before, in illegal immigration on the southern border since my election. 73%. You see what they're doing, right? So why do you need a wall? We need a wall. Build the wall. We'll build the wall. Don't even think about it. Don't even think about it. Don't even think about it. That's an easy one. We're going to build the wall. We need the wall.
And if you heard, it was audience members there shouting, build it! Build the wall! And that's what Trump was responding to and reacting to. Now, the reason that they were on this at the NRA convention is that Trump wanted $1 billion in the budget extension from now till September to get started building the wall. And he was told to Democrats, you can't do that. We'll shut down the government. We're not going to give you the money for the wall. So Trump said, okay, well, we'll tighten up security elsewhere. We'll come up. And the Democrats went along with spending more money for that. And he said, we'll get to the wall when we redo the budget again in September. People getting a little nervous. The wall's a signature promise. If it keeps being put off, it's going to be a problem. And Trump's trying to assure them they've got nothing there to worry about. This was a wonderful Open Line Friday. I mean, we were all over the place on Open Line Friday. Got it all discussed. We touched on a whole bunch of different areas, and it was great. And I thank you all very much. I hope you have a good weekend. The media's got their little party on Saturday, and Trump is going to be in Pennsylvania at a rally. And the media is saying, boy, what a juxtaposition that's going to be. No, it isn't, because nobody's going to care about the media dinner. Nobody's even going to notice it.